Welcome everyone to another Chicago Bears fan show. I am James, coming at you today, my Bears gloves on. And unfortunately, after we've missed the playoffs for the 2012 season. I know it's a sad time as Bears fans. We hope every year to make the playoffs and have a chance to win the Super Bowl. But this wasn't our year. And coming down the stretch, we could not win the games we needed to win. And we ultimately could not beat the teams that we needed to beat in order to make the playoffs. And to be honest, I don't think that even if we made it in, we really had a chance to make it to the Super Bowl and complete our goal and absolutely win the Super Bowl. Because all the teams in the NFC who made it in the playoffs are better than we are right now. There are teams in every division who are better than us, and we proved that we couldn't even beat the teams in our division that we needed to beat in Green Bay and Minnesota coming down the stretch. So in a way, it's kind of a blessing that we didn't make the playoffs this year, even though I would never cheer for them not to win. But I think it's caused the winds of change to blow through Hallis Hall in an important way. And as a result, we saw this past week Lovie Smith get fired as coach of the Chicago Bears. He was longtime head coach of the Chicago Bears. We should celebrate his record there. He's done a lot as a head coach in terms of overseeing winning teams, overseeing a team that went to the Super Bowl. And it is sad in a way, but in another way, I think the move was the right one to make. And I applaud Phil Emery for making this move now, because as Bears fans, I don't think it's good to continue to believe that this middling team who could finish 8-8 one year, 6-10 another year, 10-6 another year, ultimately had what it took to be a top-tier contender for the Super Bowl. And that's what we need. That's what we want as Bears fans. We want a team that can really contend to win it all. And I think that there are a few key reasons why Lovie was fired and that couldn't get the Bears to where they needed to be. Number one is his inability to obtain the coaching skill he needed on the offensive side of the ball. While we had a lot of weapons in Jay Cutler, Brandon Marshall, and Matt Forte, and you mix in guys like Devin Hester and Earl Bennett and a good backup, all that was wasted this year. And while it's not entirely his fault, I think he's had problems over the past number of years having the right guy in place as offensive coordinator to get the job done on that side of the ball. A few years ago, he had to panic hire Mike Martz to be the coordinator when he couldn't find anybody else that he thought would be capable to do the job. And he wanted, I guess, a boom and bust type of individual. And unfortunately, it was a big bust and may have set the offense Jay Cutler back a few years. This year, he ended up going with Mike Tice and hired internally, but Tice is a guy who had never called plays as an offensive coordinator in the NFL before and really wasn't set up to succeed in this role. And it's unfortunate. I feel bad for him in a way, but he definitely was not the answer either. Was not the talent they needed on that side of the ball. So you need somebody who's able to bring in that level of talent, and Lovie couldn't do that. I think a big reason also why he's no longer with the team was his inflexibility. And I mean this in two different ways. First of all, it's his inflexibility as a defensive coordinator. He stood really fast to this concept of a cover 2 scheme, which he was used to running and obviously still believes in himself. But that's a scheme that is very static for the most part. Yes, he had different wrinkles and could run different formations in it, but it's relatively static. It puts a lot of stress on your front four, requiring them to get pressure on the quarterback constantly in order to, force his hand. And that's a tough task, especially when you're not rotating constantly in there. And, you're keeping Julius Peppers out there every down, and he's ultimately going to fatigue as the game progresses. And we saw that fatigue set in some games for that unit. But ultimately, the structure was one that a good quarterback could read very well, could make decisions easily, and could make the plays necessary for. Even rookie quarterbacks were shown to be able to beat it this year, or young quarterbacks at least. So the other part that was a very inflexible thing for Lovie, I believe, was as a game planner. as a game planner throughout the season, as a game planner in-game, I don't think he was able to be flexible enough to adjust to other teams' strengths and to be able to then mute those strengths. And so I think that his inflexibility to change his schemes or to communicate the need for that change to his coordinator on offense was enough. And I think that was a critical problem too. Lovie's a very calm, even-keeled type of guy who doesn't like to shake things up too much either way, which can work a lot of the times, but other times when you need to shake things up and be able to respond to what the offense or defense of the other teams are doing to you, he didn't have that. So the final thing that Lovie lacked, I think, for the Bears was a lack of urgency, and at least a lack of urgency that translated on the field. We don't know as fans what happens behind closed doors in the locker room or in coaches' meetings, and perhaps he was communicating that sense of urgency, but either way, it wasn't translating on the field, and we didn't see that urgency come forward in critical games that mattered, games that could have been won by this team against tough opponents, and those are the games that needed to be won, both to make the playoffs and have a chance to succeed in those playoffs. So for all those reasons, I think it was a good decision that Lovie and the Bears part ways right now. And, it's an exciting time because you can feel that change. You can feel positive change. And I want to talk about in my next video, Phil Emery and his strategy and his direction right now for the team and what I think of that. Bear down.